Every year, millions of people walk past the most famous painting in the Netherlands. They call it the Night Watch. Almost none of them ask why. Because here is the strange part. It is not a night scene. Look closely and the shadows fall wrong. The light is wrong. This is daytime. And Rembrandt never called it that at all. He never gave it any name close to it. But here is something worse than a wrong title. In 1715, someone took actual scissors to this masterpiece. They cut it down on all four sides just to make it fit a wall. The missing pieces were never found, not one scrap. This is the Night Watch, painted by Rembrandt van Rijn in 1642, now hanging in Amsterdam's Rijksmuseum. And almost everything you think you know about it is incomplete. This is not a battle scene. It is not a nighttime patrol. It is something far more ordinary at first glance. A commissioned group portrait of Amsterdam's civic guard, the Cloveniers Militia of District 2. Group portraits like this had rules. Men stood in neat rows, or they sat around a banquet table, stiff, formal, staring straight ahead. Rembrandt broke every one of those rules. The Rijksmuseum itself notes something remarkable. He may have been the first artist to paint a group portrait of people actually doing something. Look at the center. Captain Frans Banninck Cocq extends his hand toward his lieutenant. That single gesture sets the entire company in motion. It is, quite literally, the painting's first verb. Now look left. 3 musketeers appear at different stages of the same action. One loads gunpowder, one fires, one clears the barrel. Rembrandt has folded time itself into one frozen image. A portrait was never supposed to do that. Here is what made this painting genuinely controversial. These men paid for this. Their money bought their place on that wall, inside the Cloveniers Doelen, the militia's own headquarters. And, in a proper portrait, that payment guaranteed something. Your face, clearly seen, equally lit, equally important. Rembrandt refused to give them that. Some men catch the light perfectly. Others sink halfway into shadow, half a face, half a name. Compare this to Van der Helst, painted around the same years in the very same hall. A wide, orderly row where every single guardsman remains fully visible. Rembrandt did the opposite. He compressed the crowd. He let bodies overlap. Of the roughly 34 figures crammed into this canvas, only 18 were even real, paying members of the guard. Look again at the brightest figure in the entire painting. It is not the captain. It is not the lieutenant. It is a small girl, glowing in pale yellow, tucked into the chaos near the center. She never paid for her place here, because she never existed. She is not a documented guardsman. She is not anyone's daughter. She is a mascot, an emblem, invented entirely by Rembrandt. Look closer at her belt. A dead chicken hangs from it, claws exposed, a direct visual reference to the Cloveniers themselves. And there's a second joke hidden inside that first one. In Dutch, chicken is Cocq, the same name as the captain standing just a few feet away from her. Now, back to that name. Rembrandt never called this painting the Night Watch. Its real title is long, formal, and almost nobody remembers it. Militia Company of District 2, under the command of Captain Frans Banninck Cocq. The nickname we all use instead does not appear anywhere until 1797. That's over 150 years after Rembrandt finished the canvas. Here's why it stuck. Layers of varnish had darkened across that century and a half. Thick, yellowed, dulled by grime and time. To viewers standing in front of it, the scene simply looked nocturnal. Dark uniforms, dark background. It must be night, they assumed. But look at the actual shadows. Look at the direction of the light. This is broad daylight. A company stepping outside to march. The varnish was cleaned decades later. The wrong name never left. Now, here is the part that sounds almost impossible. In 1715, this painting was moved from its original home to Amsterdam's town hall. The destination was a space between two doors. It did not fit. So, someone made a decision. They picked up scissors and they simply cut the canvas down. 2 feet gone from the left side alone. 9 inches from the top, nearly 5 inches from the bottom. Even the right side lost almost 3 inches. What vanished with those pieces was not empty background. 2 militiamen disappeared entirely, along with a small boy standing on a bridge. An arch, a balustrade, a stone step, all gone. The very details Rembrandt used to pull your eye forward into motion. Nobody knows what happened to any of it. Not one fragment has ever surfaced. And this was only the beginning of its ordeal. Stabbed with a knife twice, hidden in a bunker during the Nazi invasion, sprayed with acid in 1990. In 2019, the Rijksmuseum launched something they called Operation Night Watch, the largest research and restoration project in the museum's history, conducted live in a glass chamber in front of the public. But one problem remained unsolved for 300 years. The missing pieces were gone. Truly gone. So scientists turned to the only clue that existed. A small 17th century copy of the painting, made by an artist named Gerrit Lundens before the cuts happened. But that copy was a different style, different colors, a slightly different angle. You couldn't just enlarge it and glue it on. The solution, according to the scientist who led the project, was essentially sending artificial intelligence to art school. Neural networks were trained on Rembrandt's own brushwork until they could imitate it convincingly. So precisely that the computer even learned to replicate the tiny cracks spreading across the original paint. The reconstructed pieces were printed, mounted, and placed around the original canvas. And for the first time in 300 years, people could see the whole composition. What it revealed changed everything. The captain and lieutenant, the 2 figures everyone assumed sat dead center, were never meant to be centered at all. Rembrandt had positioned them slightly right of middle, on purpose, so the entire company would feel like it was surging forward, off balance, mid-motion. The restored figures on the left, the recovered arch, the open space, all of it rebuilt the depth Rembrandt had originally painted. For 3 centuries, the world had been staring at a cropped, off-center version of this painting, and simply assumed that was the composition. So consider what we accepted without ever checking. A name that insists this is night when it has always been day. A shape we assumed was Rembrandt's design when it was really the work of scissors 300 years ago. Millions of people standing in front of this exact canvas year after year, never once stopping to ask why. It took darkened varnish to invent a lie, and it took X-rays, neural networks, and 3 centuries to undo it. Maybe that's the real subject of this painting. Not a militia, not a girl in yellow, but how easily we accept the version we're handed, and how rarely we stop to look closer. Most people look at paintings. Very few actually see them.